you are listening to Ultra Q, episode 107. I am joined by Mel. No, my name is Red. I am joined by Mel.
Oh, fuck, I have a bit this week. Go.
I'm also joined by Brad.
Mr. President, a second Satan kaiju is pecking at the World Trade Center.
No, that's where all my photos are.
I have to get to the World Trade Center right now. My photos are there. So we got 3 more episodes of Ultraman Leo. This Ultraman Leo. I apologize. We've got episodes 7, 8, and 9.
We're 3/4 of the way through the season.
Yeah, it's only a 12 episode one, so it's going to be over quick. It's sort of like, this is going to be like what it's like with SSSS Grid, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got those 3 episodes coming up. Before we get to any of that shit, I finished Macross 7.
Hell yeah.
I haven't watched the movie or Encore yet, but I finished the show.
Which are the only 2 things you need to watch.
The only 2 things I need. I have heard. Listen, I'm just gonna believe the people who tell me don't watch Dynamite.
Listen,
I'm just gonna be like, okay, well, I just won't watch Dynamite then.
It is on record on this podcast that M
you
has
were told
said,
the same
do not
thing,
watch this. And I did anyway, because I was like, I have to know. And now I have seen it, and you do not have to. I have taken the bullet for you.
There we go. I won't watch Dynamite. There we go. Easy. Less to watch, but
No, OP's alright though. You can go listen to OP.
I'm like, I've taken a very long time to watch Macross 7. It took me half a year.
Listen, you didn't take longer than I did.
Okay, well, what I mean to say is, I've gone through this very methodically, and I've spent half a year with my boys, with Basara and Gamlin, and I've been having a good time. That's a really good anime.
You know what's a good formula for your music themed mecha show?
Yeah, what's a good formula?
They're just hanging out.
They're hanging out.
Out.
I have been like, I was just shit posting about Basara. I was like, I made one post that was like Ray at the firebomber at the airport, and Ray's like saying like, now security doesn't have to be involved, and Mylene's like, Basara, why would you say that? And like Basara, who said bomber at full volume 10 seconds ago, fire. And then I was just, from there, I just like spiraled off into like inventing an episode of Macross 7 where I was like, well, naturally Ray would know a guy at security and they would get on their plane, they'd get on their flight just fine. And then the flight would actually get hijacked. Stuff would happen.
And then like someone will try and you have a Mark Wahlberg guy trying to handle it. And then Basara's like, no. We solved this through song.
Well, Basara would specifically...
Basara pulls out his guitar.
Basara pulls out his guitar. Specifically, he's singing a song to convince the passengers to not kill the hijacker, while Mylene is locked in the cockpit and has to fly with the unconscious pilots and has to land the plane.
Yeah, and also Basara's like walking slowly towards the guy with the gun while playing the guitar.
Yes, it's just like, I'm just like, Macross 7 just generates episodes of Macross 7. You come up with one thought of Macross 7 and it turns into like a full
it's a
episode.
show about putting guys in situations.
Yes, it's really good. I had a great time.
Presumably there's like a either Gamelin or Max Genius B plot.
Yeah, I'm like, is Gamlin like sent to shoot down the plane and realizes and like he has to like choose not to do that or something? I don't know. But it's just Gamlin is my boyfriend. Thank you.
He's wonderful.
His hairline is maybe the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Brad, I'm going to show you Gamlin from Macross 7.
Let me see.
Let me show you this man.
I think one of my favorite Gamlin moments is like, I think...
Hang on, let me post this image in here.
Yes.
Oh, this man is 19 years old.
I think there's like a scene where like Maylene is like going to see Gamlin and she's like, upset or nervous about something, and like Basra gives her like apple, hey, give this to Gamlin, he'll probably like it, and she's like, that's ridiculous, and then they're on the swing set, he's eating the apple, like, oh, thanks for the apple.
Oh yeah, there are like very light touches of the suggestion of if we were making a different show, this could be a show about Mylene being like Fujo brained about Gamlin and Basra.
here's the thing. It's like this show, it's a Macross show, so it does have to have the requisite love triangle. This is like kind of the fakest. Yes, it resolves this by being the fakest and providing the best solution, which is you have Maylin and Gamlin, and ostensibly Maylin likes Basra as a potential love rival to Gamlin. And then at some point, Gamlin is won over enough to Basra that he could potentially also maybe like Basra. But crucially, Basra is also the most arrow ace person alive who just does not understand the concept of romance or sex, and so he's just like completely oblivious to everything.
The biker woman, that episode where she's possessed and keeps trying to have sex with Basra, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
And people keep walking in on him.
Goku
it's like
levels. It's crazy.
It would not work if it was any other way, but Basra is perfect.
Yes, Gamlin's. I love the sound doctor who's like the first time he appears and presents his theory about like song energy and stuff, and then he's like, and I believe that people can be cured by listening to the song of Neki Basra, and he straps Gamlin into a chair, puts headphones on him, and blasts a firebomb song into him, and then takes the readings and is like, wow, this is strangely stressing you out, while Gamlin's screaming because he hates Basra so much. This shows Macross 7 is an incredible anime. I was looking up. I think partway through the show, I realized what the deal was going to be with Flower Girl. I don't want to say what the deal is with Flower Girl because I think it's amazing. I like at some point in the show, I realized, oh, this is it. This is forever.
It's a good bit.
And then, like, she's in the OP and everything, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was looking up the Flower Girl on the internet, and I found people being like, this is the most pointless side character that's ever existed. And I was like, anime fans need to have anime taken away from them. They can't be trusted with it.
They don't understand. They don't understand what they have.
They don't understand. Macross 7 was incredible. I'm gonna I'll leave the movie until, because like, I'm like, maybe I'll just circle back to the movie when I'm like, oh, I'm in the mood for some
I need
Neki Basara.
Circle back to the Macross Frontier movies. Because like the Frontier was the first Macross I watched to completion.
And it's got like Macross 7 in one of those movies in like a weird splice, right?
Well, that one I did watch. It was like it was like it was like a compilation movie for Macross 7, but the framing device was in the universe of Frontier.
I see. Macross doing its thing. Like I think Macross 7 is the show that where they're filming Love what's it called? Do you remember Love?
Do you remember Love? Oh
yeah.
There's an episode of Macross Frontier where there's a movie they're filming that's an adaptation of Macross 0.
That's good. They like, Mylene has been like auditioned to be Lin Minmay or something, and Basara gets recruited to be Hikaru, and Mylene turns to Basara and teases him and says, you have to be sensitive to play Hikaru, and I was like, extremely loud incorrect buzzer noise.
That's
not true.
Extremely wrong.
Yeah.
Dumbest man.
So yeah, I had a great time with Macross 7. I'm songs wise, I like the Mylene songs. I like what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. But I also I like
it when it's Saturday night.
I'm not so keen. Saturday Night is not one of my favorites.
Planet Dance, for the record.
Yeah, Planet Dance. I like My Soul for You, incredible. come on, people. And I'm like, I think late comer to the show, and I was like, oh, this is my favorite one. Try again. I need
to listen to more other songs.
Try Again's the one that they actually like. They introduce one that seems like it's gonna be their big powerful song for like the ending, and then they come up with Try Again like an episode later, and I'm like, oh, this one's better. And by the end of the show, they're like, yeah, this one is better. We are gonna use this one for the last episode, and I'm like, hell yeah, you are.
I think another one of my favorite moments is, I forget when. It's like 20. It's like episode. It is in the 20s. Like there's a thing attacking the city, and like Bastar's in the cockpit with Maylin, and she's gonna like fire like some missiles and stuff, Macross style, and he's like,
"Don't shoot missiles!
Don't shoot missiles! They're stupid. Sing."
I got a screenshot of Rey contacting Maylene in her mech to be like, Maylene, Bastar is singing to the galaxy, and I was like, this is a summary of Macross 7. I'm multiple episodes of Macross 7 where I'm like, this is cinema. This is incredible. I love that show. Great. Instant great. 10 out of 10 classic. That's all I want to talk about this week. I've done other stuff, but I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
I should watch that at some point.
Yeah.
Tragically, the only Macross thing I've seen beyond 7 beyond Plus is 0.
I think hear that one's not better that Macross things.
It wasn't great. So here's the thing. Funny enough, I watched 0 because I watched Macross like a long while back or whatever. And then I watched 0 because I'm like, oh, this is the prequel one, like way back, and I was like, oh, that wasn't very good. And then I just never touched Macross again until me and my friends rewatched Macross a few years back, and I was like, oh yeah, Macross.
Me when
is
I
cool.
start Gundam with the Origin.
It has a lot of Origin. It's extremely Origin. Also, I remember it being very 8th MS Team Brain.
That makes sense.
It's been a minute though, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I believe I don't know if 0 would be the next one I watch, and then like Frontier, which like I hear Frontier is I might as well watch it. Frontier is like the one that's I've heard people talk up the love triangle in that one, and I'm like, well, that's what I wanted from the original Macross. So
I like Frontier.
I will take that.
It is good.
Who wants to go next?
I have like one thing.
Go for it.
So, well, I guess I should say I fucking went out and protested yesterday. Which nice. I've been my leg's been giving me issues, and I was like, maybe not. And then like I kind of just scrolled through my feed and went, no, I'll feel better after I do this. So I just went out and did that. Talked with some pretty cool people. Also a few older people there that were a little secondhand embarrassing, but they were out. But some back to brunch going on in my community.
Yeah, there's definitely like an obviously encourage people to get organized and move out, but also like when there's like the pervasive liberalism does mean there's some people who are like they got like the cringe attention grabbing signs rather than like an actual like meaningful message.
So that was at least something. But
do you want to? I don't know if you just really went to like the No Kings protest or anything, but do you want to hear like something really ridiculous I found out about that?
Oh, I think I saw. Was this the thing you were posting about the Canadian ally? Yes.
The Canadian ally. The Canadian ally to like the No Kings thing protest because Canada has the monarchy has the king. King Charles of the United Kingdom. We were like, we have changed it. Did we change the name of the protest to No That's Tyrants? Right. And I'm like,
roll over.
I'm like, this is the biggest country ever.
So fucking corny. But yeah, my week was mostly busy with work stuff. The only other thing I did like fun wise is my Switch 2 has made me pay more attention to my Steam Deck because I went, that's right, I have RetroArch and Dolphin on this thing. I should load this up with more ROMs. So I've been poking away at a few different things. I don't know if I'm going to stick with anything, but I was like, we'll see. But the big thing that I did is I recently went through and I was just like, let's load up the Plex server with some random shit on Internet Archive, because who knows how long that thing's going to still be around for. So I decided to just download some random stuff, and I found a thing called Gray Digital Target. Have either of you ever heard of Gray, the manga, or Digital Target, the movie adaptation?
No. I'm looking up Gray right now.
Okay, so I didn't know what this was. This is a manga created by a guy named Yoshihisa Tagami, who I guess is better known in Japan, and Gray is like one of the few things he's known for outside of Japan. And part of that is because this movie was brought over back in the day as just like, we're bringing over a bunch of random like cool guy OVAs and stuff from the 80s. And this was one of them. Viz also put out the manga. Harlan Ellison has a pull quote on the cover for some reason.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah, he read it and he's like, this is what it's all about. And I was like,
God.
How did they get this in your hands? But
the weeb Harlan Ellison.
I guess I don't. I was just like this.
A thing that we should be careful not to wish into the world. That sounds like a crazy mix.
It does feel like this man's like haunting me wherever I go look for nerd things.
You just find you peek into something you're interested in. Harlan Ellison springs out like, I assaulted that woman. Remember?
Yep.
I'm a really influential writer. I'm really good at my job.
Yeah, it's a real problem. So I didn't know this until after I was looking up trivia of the movie. This movie was directed by Satoshi Dazaki, who is the older brother of the other one, who is much better known.
Right, yes. I was like, I didn't know his name was Satoshi. Is that right?
No, it's Osamu is his younger brother and is the guy who did like Dear Brother and like Aim for the Ace. All of
Utena
the
guy,
big
not Utena, the other one.
No,
the Versailles. There we go.
Yes. All of the big important stuff that was really experimental, and even like looking him up, I'm like, he's not as he's still respected in the industry, but he's known for being a little bit more by the books than his brother. And I'm just like, damn, that's unfortunate. But yeah, Gray is a manga that is extremely cool guy coded. And it's kind of great. I love it a lot. I don't know if I love it, but I like it a fair amount. So, there's a guy named Gray, who is a person with a capital P. And he lives in a society of numbered towns.
Don't we all?
Yes. So he's from town like 503 or something. The less digits your town has, the greater its military capacity. If you're a single-digit town, you got the good stuff, and then it goes from there. So he's out in the sticks. But in spite of all that, he has risen the ranks of becoming a trooper, capital T, because all of these towns are equipped with a computer called a Little Mama, and Little Mama runs all the towns and commands them to go to war with the other towns.
You know, Harlan Ellison is right. This is very... this is very his type of shit.
100%. So, by gaining enough kills or points by completing missions, but mostly, the thing that is weighed heavily is not completing your mission, it's how many kills you rack up. You eventually earn the right to become a citizen, capital C, and move to the city, capital C.
Okay, this is how I'm always talking about Little Mama.
This is a screenshot from Phantasy Star 2. I've always believed that Mother Brain is absolutely right all the time.
Yep.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
I'm like, parkour civilization.
Honestly, we used to make cooler parkour civilizations as a people. Capital P.
Yeah.
So... it stars a guy named Gray, who, despite everything, keeps coming back from missions, and he's rising up the ranks. And he's become known as the Grey Death because he often comes back from his missions, the only survivor. He meets a fellow trooper named Nova, who also survives with him one mission. And she goes from hating him because he's cold and uncaring and maybe very good at being a soldier, but not so good at being a person. Then they end up falling in love, and he starts to talk to her about, I think this whole town war thing is maybe a little bit bullshit. And maybe we should go break out on our own and see what's out there and figure out what's actually going on. And this gets spurred on further because Gray's mentor, Red, goes missing.
Huh? Okay.
It is adapting a 3-volume manga into I think it's like 72-minute long movie. It does not have the time to be doing that. Every 10 minutes, they are cutting to like a different set piece and action scene with very, very quick connective tissue between each of these segments. But it ends up feeling like a breakneck pace adventure in a way that's really fun, where they just keep meeting new people, and it's like, oh, okay, start the timer for how long this one lasts until they get blown up or dismembered horrifically. It's great. You probably could predict the ending about halfway through the movie. You've extremely seen this sci-fi plot before. I still had a good time with it. It's not all that exciting in terms of characterization. It is all action all the time. Soundtrack is pretty good. The soundtrack is done by, I think it's Yuri with the Cash, who did the Digital Devil story song as well for the OVA they did. Like an 80s group that seemed to be pretty popular to grab at the time for anime stuff. But yeah, it's a fun time. If you want a cool guy driving around tanks and jeeps and shooting laser beams at each other that like dismember one another, and then going back to be like, how many points did I get? And then the computer's like, 12 confirmed kills. And he's like, what? I counted 26. And then the robot goes, actually 14 of them were robots. It's good stuff. See. Yeah. This is a fun time. I think I'm going to read... So apparently the director and a lot of the fans fucking hated this movie. I thought it was a great time. But apparently the manga is darker. And I'm curious what exactly...
What that means.
Yeah, because this has I'd say an overall positive ending, but like it's pretty brutal. So I'm curious to see how different it is. And since it's 3 volumes, the only English release was a Viz back in the day release before they realized that people cared about reading right to left when they read manga. So it is
oh no, it's flipped.
It's flipped, but then
it's like
also
the fucking
altered. It's altered so that anything that would they did a odd amount of Photoshop work to make it so that things transfer over. It's hard to describe, but it's not just a 1-to-1 mirror. Back in the day, I remember reading the Star Wars manga, and it was just the laziest flip job ever. And it actually seemed like they at least tried to make it read normal, even though you are reading left to right. So, but I preferred right to left, of course.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
What's the fucking
you gotta hear for your folks. Brad prefers the right to the left.
Yeah.
That's what
what's the little robot boy manga?
Astro Boy?
There we go, Astro Boy. I was like, what the fuck is it
you
called?
Astro Boy.
Roblox.
I remembered Astro Boy. I forgot the name for Astro Boy. I was in my head I was going, Atom, the boy that's a robo.
I guess Atom is his Japanese name, but
and then so yeah, I was like, anytime I look into, well, how would I read that? And it's like, well, you probably check out, the only thing available really is the Dark Horse collection. I'm like, but that one, that's completely out of order, and 2, it's left to right, and it's like, yes, yes, that's right. That is the best we have. And I'm like,
I have, I think, all 6 of those.
Okay.
Shockingly.
I
should read them at some point.
I should read Grey on account of the fact that this is the most 2000 AD manga I've ever fucking heard of.
It's extremely it feels very like this guy saw and read some like early 80s sci-fi stuff and was like, oh hell yeah, I could do one of those. It rules. This is
absolutely on that Strontium Dog shit. Yeah,
I have a sneaking suspicion too that maybe that first batch of Armored Core games, maybe some of the people were a fan. There's some stuff that, like, I mean, with the computer stuff you could probably predict, but yeah, it's cool.
All right, nice. Is that everything?
Yep, that's me.
All right, Mel, what you been up to?
Hey, I got a few things.
Okay.
Because also I was away last week. First of all, I guess I did read First Shot by Genre Canticle for Leibowitz.
Oh hell yeah!
That's all right.
Yeah, I like that book quite a bit. I didn't finish my reread of it in time, but
yeah,
it's a good one.
I wasn't sure how I felt about the last third, but you know, it's a nifty read.
Is Ben a minute? Is it just what part of it?
It's like
because like I remember what happens, but I don't really necessarily remember.
There's like the debate about like the guy commanding the mother kind of thing, the church guy. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know about how I feel about this.
Okay,
but you know, it's not like a black and white feeling. It's more like this is messy a bit, and I'm not sure what the author was trying to say. But you know, there's that. It did feel weird just being like. Did you mention in the Shell by Genre thing that he does just kind of put the Wandering Jew myth into the story as real? But
okay,
that's a weird thing to do in your story of the post-apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There's a lot of like the church waxing on the last bit, like, oh damn, we're falling into the cycle of decadence. You know, which is why we need to escape to Earth to settle the frontier. And I'm like, well, you know, which country built the bomb? I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's that. Can confirm that I don't think Berlin Alexanderplatz 2020 should exist.
Damn.
I think it's kind of pointless. I think it tries to retell the story of by making Franz a legal immigrant from Guinea-Bissau. And
do you feel like that maybe sabotages some of the like character work of?
Yeah, I think one thing they talk about like in the Alf about it was they were like it kind of makes him too nice a guy when part of the plot of the book and like the subsequent like Fassbinder adaptation is that Franz is a guy who sucks, and kind of the tragedy of everything is that despite everything he doesn't learn to grow and change as much as he probably should. And this one he kind of just like it's one thing, it's like 3 hours, so it wasn't like as bad as I thought, like 2 hours, but also just it's like both trying to be different in ways that end up feeling shallow, especially because the way it brings race into things is like no. And also retreads things in a way that also feels shallow. And like the sort of Franz has like the surreal dream abstract ego death thing happening that happens at the end of the book, and like all the adaptations. It's really compressed here, and it just feels like, well, I guess you did technically put it on the screen. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It feels like a really sloppy attempt to like, and obviously it's like I don't think you should. If you're gonna try and take another crack at the story, doing something different is the way to do it, because obviously you can't really top someone who did it across 15 hours. But I don't know. In the end, it felt like this was a pointless endeavor.
Damn. Criterion had a sale on the miniseries, so I do own it now.
Nice. You know what else you can get on Criterion?
What else?
A completely different movie about Berlin that I saved to watch after finishing all this stuff as a treat. I watched the 1980s. I forget the name of the director, but I watched Wings of Desire.
Right. I have not seen this movie, but yes.
Nor have I.
By what's the director? Wim Wenders. Different German director, but also I think he was friends with Fassbinder and like was upset when he died. And also there's definitely this like DiCaprio pointing the screen a bit watching this movie and being like, I definitely think he was thinking about Fassbinder's adaptation of Berlin Alexanderplatz when making this. Basically this movie is about there's a couple of angels in specifically West Berlin, because it's still West Germany, and East Germany, and it's just kind of like they've been there since like before humans showed up in Germany, and they kind of like, they kind of think of like they observe, they watch humans, they're like, but they can't experience things the same way, and so like basically one of the angels ends up falling in love with like a failed trapeze artist, and so he's like, wait, maybe I just want to experience humanity and give up my like eternal existence just to like feel things and like maybe have something with this woman, and so he does that. And so the movie's basically just a bunch of like neat vignettes of just like going around this interesting time capsule city now, as it turns out, because West Berlin, like weird setup that in hindsight probably if they had the power to do so, the communists should have not agreed to, where they not only occupied Germany, but they separately divided up Berlin into occupation zones. And Berlin is deep inside the East Germany. Yes. So like West Berlin's like an enclave of West Germany within East Germany, and that was a destabilizing thing for East Germany, because it was like a thing deep inside you where like the West could insert like CIA intelligence and
and also they famously kind of besieged West Berlin at some point, because this was going to be a problem, and
also there's like the wall exists also because like easy to induce brain drain from like the upwardly mobile classes in East Germany who's trying to rebuild and do socialism, when you can just be like, hey, what if we got the treats the West gives from like imperialism?
It's always been fucking treats.
It's always been treats.
Well, yes.
Damn.
And that's like, the whole like thing was like, destabilizing to East Germany. But like, yeah, it creates this interesting situation where you have like the weird like enclosed city, and just sort of like that's kind of like one of the like the things he's exploring. Just like he thinks of like just like the exploring the city as a place, which is definitely like in line with like Berlin Alexanderplatz doing that for Weimar Berlin specifically. And this one's just like this particular era of Berlin being captured on film. Also, Peter Falk is in this movie as himself, and he's fun.
Okay.
He's just in here, and he's like, apparently in the lore of this movie, he was also once an angel who was just like, yeah, I decided to become human, and it's pretty good.
Okay.
And then it's just a good scene where he's just walking like,
You know what I'm always saying about Peter Falk? I'm like, I bet that guy used to be an angel.
Yeah. And he's just this part where he's just wandering like the city, because there's like the kind of like the almost like a no man's land kind of area, a field just like weird near where the wall is, and he's just wandering there, and like some German punks just like walk past him, and they're like, bro, is that Columbo? And they're like, nah, not with that jacket, not out here.
That's so fucking good.
It's a really good line. And it's Peter Falk is like Peter Falk the character is in West Berlin filming like a bad World War II like movie about like the Nazis, and
I see.
And yeah, it's just, you know, a neat movie. And one of the cool things about this movie is like they graphically show the like different experience of like the humans and the angels, because like where everything's like supposed to be the angels' point of view, it's all filmed in black and white, and it looks really nice and good. And then you get the human perspective where the film is in color, which is cool. But also the moment when it does turn to color, it goes from like, oh damn, this is the timeless feel of cinema, and it suddenly goes, this is the most 80s movie I've ever seen.
I see. This was that captures the immortality / mortality thing.
Yeah, unintentionally, but like it is funny just like how the moment the color switches on, it's like, oh, I feel the date and time of when this was filmed more than the black and white.
That's cool.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just neat. It's cool. It's a good, more of a vibe movie, definitely, because like there's like a plot, but also it's a lot of like images and things and a lot of people talking and monologuing about themes more than like the themes is more important than the actual like specific to the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's cool, and it's neat.
Nice.
And apparently they made a sequel, which I'm not sure if I'll watch. But they made a sequel in 1993 because they were like, well, the wall's down, so I guess maybe we should make something.
Circle back on that.
Yeah. Though I've heard, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, but also I heard like it's a more cynical movie.
I see.
Which maybe is more interesting. It's just like, the capitalists won and, you know, did their plunder of, you know, East Germany, but also like it has a more cynical outlook about the victory of capitalism over socialism, which might make it more interesting for me. However, the thing that makes me aware of this movie is that apparently Gorbachev appears as himself, and I know that when he's on screen, I'll just say, I'm gonna kill you. So,
go back to Pizza Hut, motherfucker.
Go back to Pizza Hut, piece of shit. But yeah, that's Wings of Desire. Pretty nice movie. I'd recommend it.
Nice.
And I've also finished some RPGs.
Some RPGs.
RPGs.
Yeah. I have finished Lunar, the Silver Star for the Sega CD.
Nice.
And I've also finished Lunar Silver Star Story Complete for the PlayStation 1.
Why do you do this?
Okay, you are the most well-equipped person to tell me which fucking version of this goddamn game to play.
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, it sounds like no. It sounds like no, she isn't. It sounds... It's beginning to sound like the answer is, it depends.
It does depend, unfortunately, in this case. It might not depend for the sequel. That remains to be seen. But for this one, it really does depend, because there's a lot of weird differences. I think...
Is everyone just fuck the PSP version, then?
Yes.
Okay.
However, the new remaster that came out is just a more quality of life, polished up version of the PS1 version. So I would say, in that case, you know, it's the choice between the remaster now and
Sega CD. Well, what's wrong with the PSP version? Just real quick before we...
It just sounds like it's really sloppy and bad.
Just not a good port. Okay.
Not a good port. So yeah, basically, this is a pretty... The context of this game is, it seems like... It was made for the Sega CD, so it's coming out of like 16-bit generation, when CD technology is kind of like look back to when I talked about the PC Engine last year for Shmup season. You know, CD add-on like gave the PC Engine like a longevity just by like, hey, look at all this, even though the PC Engines look weaker than the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, it had like the CD add-ons gave it longevity in Japan. So obviously, you know, you have one hand, you have Sega doing the Sega CD. On the other hand, you have Nintendo trying to make their own CD add-on that crashes and burns, and out of the Phoenix comes the Sony PlayStation to own the industry afterwards. But before that happens, the Sega CD version of Lunar comes out in 1992, so I guess at the time, it is a technical marvel because like you can't the way you can put actual ass anime cutscenes on a CD in the PlayStation 1 and Saturn era. You can't do that for the Sega CD, and obviously this game is really trying to be like go into like the following up from like I guess Far East of Eden, which is like the killer app RPG of the PC Engine and CD add-ons, trying to be like, hey, what if the RPG was an anime you played? And I will now show you the power of the anime ass OP for the Sega CD version, just to have an idea.
This is the Lunar, the Silver Star Sega CD Japanese intro with subtitles. Yeah. I might be able to just drop. I don't know. No, I probably won't.
Too much work.
Okay, this is an anime opening.
Yes.
What year is this?
1992.
1992.
So it's pre-Chrono Trigger into Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think that adds, like, I read that, like, in Japan, this is the most sold Sega CD game and, like, the number 2 globally. So when this came out, it was, like, a big deal. And from that angle, I think it's, like, you know, understanding is, like, as of the time it came out in the early 90s as, like, a really big thing, like, technical marvel. Like, if you can see, like, all the different, like, cutscenes, like, all the different, like, bitmaps on stuff of that game, it's like crazy. And I think maybe like the battle system is a bit more unique in the context of the time too, because there's like positional elements in it, so you can't really control a character directly, but like there's position to take care of, like your characters kind of move automatically depending on like movements, and there's like position that matters in terms of like characters, which characters can attack or attack what. So not the same as like, you know, directly moving a character where they want, but like there is like targeting involved.
Okay.
And the plot's pretty rudimentary, to be honest. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the hero wants to become the protagonist wants to be the hero and wants to go on an adventure. The old hero who died, asterisk question mark, came from his hometown. He's like, I want to be like him, and now he goes on an adventure and gets wrapped up in the world-ending plot as like the past generation of heroes, like one of them is turning evil. That's a big spoiler reveal. Whoa, but it's also very telegraphed at the OP. And you know, your love interest becomes damseled, and so you got to recruit with all the other people. You start off with like you get your 2 childhood friends. The protagonist's name is Alex. He's a silent protagonist in the Sega CD version. In the PS1 version, they give him more lines, but he doesn't actually have a personality, so it's actually kind of useless.
Oh, I see.
Here's some examples, some bitmap work on the Sega CD.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, you know, you have your friend Ramus, who is your childhood friend, and also Luna. Luna gets kidnapped later, but like Ramus eventually quits your journey. It's like, I'm gonna become like, I don't think I want to go on a journey. But we did like this guy tried to extort us, and now I own his shop, so I'm just gonna be a merchant here. And he runs the shop. And eventually you meet like other party members who are like your actual party members. There's like Nash, who's like a cowardly and arrogant wizard guy who isn't actually good at magic. He's one of the weaker party members, yeah. There's Mia, who's like the daughter of one of the previous 4 heroes who runs the magic school, which flies in the sky. It looks pretty cool when it shows up on the world map. There's Jessica, who's like the daughter of another member of the 4 heroes. She's like a healer. And then there's Jessica's ex-boyfriend and bandit lord Kyle, who's just, you know, strong guy. And you go do the adventure stuff and save the world. There isn't a lot to it. But, you know, I'm sure when the Sega CD version came out, it was like really cool and impressive, especially because you didn't have like, you know, Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI's like benchmarks yet for like the storytelling angle or presentation angle. But then you have the PS1 remake coming out in 1998. And that game is less impressive for its contemporaries. That's for sure.
The PS1 has some banger JRPGs.
Like, you know.
Time catches up to us all.
Like, you know, if you look at
Square Enix is putting Final Fantasy IX on a PlayStation 1 somehow.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the year, like, 1998 is the year, like, I'm not really sure how, yeah, like, yeah, this one they could just put the anime cutscenes on the disc.
Yeah.
There was, like, I think there was a Saturn port. There was the original remake was a Saturn port, but then, like, it got ported to the PS1.
Many such cases.
I don't know the order of operations, but a key part of this story. First of all, I should say for context, I did this because the RPG podcast I like, Retrograde Amnesia. This is their current season. They're playing the PS1 version, and that's like I finished it. They're like still a ways for the end because unfortunately, one thing this game likes to do, that is making that season of the podcast drag out a bit longer than perhaps some people like. But the bit's kind of funny, is when story events happen, a lot of NPC dialogue around the world changes, and so because the bit of the podcast is they're very comprehensive, one of the hosts is like, I took all the notes, and the other host is like, oh no.
Oh my god.
Speaking of NPC dialogue, another thing that you can't talk about this game without talking about is that both the Sega CD and the PS1 version were localized by noted localization company Working Designs.
One of the localization companies of all time.
Yeah. Known for such things as, like, random NPC who just says a neutral thing in Japanese now is like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? I don't know. Why do you know what a Tootsie Pop is?
I see.
Also, calling you slurs in their manuals for Elemental Gearbolt if you chose to buy the cheapest light gun on the market.
Yeah, the R slurs in this game too.
Yep.
Now. Let's not tar this particular game. The R slur is in Final Fantasy VII.
Yes,
yes. True.
That's true.
Thanks, Tifa.
Yeah. Jeez, Tifa, so ableist. Yeah. That naturally that season of the podcast is also as much a season about Working Designs in a way, and they have been, like, as part of their comprehensive documenting the Working Designs isms, and they're just kind of like, why are you like this? Vic Ireland needs to get the Northern Lion hammers.
Didn't they also just make the game way fucking harder
yes,
for
that's
no
the
reason?
other thing. And so I should say I played with on a Working Designs patch, which does not change the localization because that means you gotta fucking retranslate the game. That's kind of hard, but it does revert the numbers back to what they were in the Japanese release, because what they did, and this seems to be more egregious in the PS1 version than the Sega CD version, is and I should note, the remastered version is just normal. It doesn't have the bullshit.
Okay, good. But it is using the Working Design script, right?
Yes, but also they took out the most egregious stuff and reworked it.
Okay.
There's obviously, like, some of the still stuff is still there, like some of the still energy is there, but it is like, most of the most egregious. Why would you put that in your game? That has nothing to do with anything. Is gone. Okay. No random ABBA references or something. But yeah, the Working Designs, because for those who don't know, in Japan, renting games is illegal, and it was legal in the US, which meant sometimes the US releases were made more difficult, so people couldn't just rent the game and finish it in a single weekend. And in this case, it meant we are making all the enemies more damage. They do more damage. They take less damage, and also you get less EXP and money. So it makes the Working Designs release just more grindy than it should have been. Also, one of the most egregious ones is there's one character party members gets a teleportation spell that lets you exit dungeons, and in the normal balancing, which I had thankfully to the correct patch, it's only 1 MP, and the Working Designs patch it's 20 NP.
I see.
So that's bullshit. But yeah. The interesting thing is, now on one hand, you know, obviously from a technical standpoint, you know, relative to its contemporaries, PS1 is the weaker game. Like, I mean, you know,
it's up against some bangers.
Yeah, it's like basically like 16-bit plus in terms of like, you know, there you go.
This is a PS1 game. Yeah, I mean, at the time, people this looks fine.
Yeah,
this looks fine, but this is the era where Square Enix have decided to make the most expensive games ever. But like,
yeah, like Final Fantasy VIII came out the same year as this, so
yeah.
So you know, it's definitely like, for the angle, it's less impressive. However, I will say I think the gameplay is better in the PS1 version, personally.
Okay.
It like adds to, like, one thing is like one problem I think, one complaint I have with the Sega C version is that you get a lot of spells, a really big list of spells that are all kind of the same except more numbers, and it's kind of hard to tell what the point is or what spell you should use. There isn't as much meaningful decision making. And the PS1 version streamlines it, but like everyone has like 4 to 8 skills max. Obviously, they start with a lower number than that, but like leveling up as an RPG. And it's very clear, like, oh, okay, this is a skill that does this. This is a skill that does this. I can use this for this situation. I can use this for this situation. Like, the protagonist Alex starts the game with one skill, which is like a sword dance skill, I think it's called, and it's like he runs up and does a lot of sword slashes for big damage, and it's a single target spell, and that skill is useful as his main strategy to use against bosses until the end of the game, because he just has, you know, his other skills are for other things, and I think that just makes for a more interesting encounter and like game design. And like, obviously, it's not the most complex RPG ever, but also, you know, also I think in terms of the mechanics, you can feel the fact that Chrono Trigger has happened with this one, because like some of the skills are like, this one attacks all the enemies around you, and this one attacks in a straight line, etc., etc., etc.
Can I ask a question? You've described this guy's like primary kind of ability that is useful towards the end of this game. Is this a game that I would beat with an SMT Fizz build? Is this like I would, like, you know, everyone else is kind of pumping up my main guy and then I'm hitting the boss with him?
No.
Okay.
Because
I'll find now could I find a way?
Well, no, because it's the
ongoing. Go for it.
Well, because your other party members don't necessarily have like moves to buff you.
Okay.
Which they do have a bit more of in the Sega C version. I think like one difference is like it feels like Alex in Sega CD is a bit more jack of all trades, because he gets magic as well as some physical skills. And there's like more like buffing. There's more like spells where like support members can cast buffs on you, whereas in this one it's like both Alex is made more of a physical fighter. Most of his like native skills are like physical fighting skills. He, as like the protagonist who's the quote unquote gonna become the Dragon Master, and he like gets dragon magic at certain plot intervals. But those dragon magic spells, while they're like, you know, this is his magic, they're all like high MP costs, so highly situational, if you can even use it. And so like he's kind of geared more towards, in the basics, like his basic strategy is a lot more fighter oriented as opposed to like being jack of all trades. And like both him and Kyle have like a self buff skill, and then the kind of strategy for both of them is like self buff, and then they both go to town with their physical skills, and then the other cast members use their magic skills, kind of thing.
Okay.
Notably, Jessica as the healer does decent physical damage. She has a mace, so that, you know, there's a bit of like diversity there.
I only ask because this is it doesn't matter what JRPG I'm playing, I will somehow find a way. By the end I will realize, I'm playing an SMT Fizz build.
Yeah.
This is how it keeps happening.
That's
how I beat Final Fantasy 1.
Do you both know the cringe reason why fantasy RPGs decided that healers use blunt weapons?
Why?
Because it goes back to, of course, Take a Shot D&D, where it was decided that clerics couldn't, going back to like old Christian teachings, clerics could not use weapons that drew blood because it was against their creed, but like smashing them with like a hammer is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that just stuck across the genre somehow.
There should be some sword clerics. I mean, sword clerics, I guess, are paladins, you know.
But also, I will say, what's interesting as well, which makes it like hard, a case of like, you can't say one or the other for sure, is that there's like a remixes and change the plot. Like, I think there's like some degree of fleshing out, because like, you know, it's hard, it's like, you know, PS1 era, you can't just use the same level of storytelling as the Sega CD era. And I mean, like, it's still like not like, it's still like pretty rudimentary. Like, it's pretty basic plot, but they add a lot more dialogue and like give the characters more to say, and there's a bit more character there. Obviously, some of that's working designs as well, but like you know, there's like an expansion to the story, and like you get there's a few kids like doing gang to do more things in the PS1 version, so there's kind of more to do. And like also some things are just like the orders of some events are mixed around, like they go to different things. Some things are remixed, like but also some things are streamlined, because like, there's like an incident where you go in the Sega CD, you go stop a village suffering a plague who's like being caused by like some random other boss who only exists for like no reason. And it's like, why is there an Aztec demon thing here? And in the PS1 version, that's kind of just streamlined, lumped in with like the fourth dragon temple kind of thing. So there's some like interesting like streamlining of things where like there's I guess maybe some more cohesion attempt, and I think some of that's like I heard that the PS1 version of this game takes influence from the fact that they made a sequel to Lunar 1 on the Sega CD, Lunar 2, and they kind of look back at like that existing to inform the remake as well, both mechanically and story wise. And also there's like some interesting changes, like in the PS1 in the Sega CD version, Luna shows up, and then before you take the boat to like your like basically the first big town. But like, you know, basically like first hour or two in the game, she's like, actually, I'm gonna turn back home, and then you can like happen to meet her as you come back, and then a big plot reveal happens where she's kidnapped. And meanwhile, in the PS1 version, you have Final Fantasy VII remake moment. She actually like decides to instead come with you on the boat, and is actually with you for a lot longer in the game. I guess like she's say more stuff and be more of a character before the kidnapping happens. So you know. So,
like actually make you care about
that's
good
to the degree which is like, you know,
I think you're swaying me more to this version.
Yeah, like here's the thing, like I think you should, for historical, I think if you're like a RPG like big fan, you like want to understand like the history, I think it's worth seeing Sega CD version as like for the history. And I think maybe there's like something you could like there's maybe some things some people would say they do better. But I do think, like, I feel like I had the more complete, full experience doing the PS1 version. I think it's like, if I had to recommend one, just, you know, play the remaster. If you're only going to pick one.
This is also rubbing up against if I have to be truthful with myself. As cool as I do think the Sega CD is, I just have no connection towards it compared to the PlayStation. Well, yeah. I think that's gonna help that one's direction too.
One of them was a niche, expensive peripheral for a console. And the other is one of the best-selling systems of all time.
I had a friend growing up who I associate with Sonic the Hedgehog because was the only kid I knew who had like a Genesis or anything, and like did have a Sega CD. Only game he had for it was Sonic CD, which was cool. But
I mean, I'm sure there's like there isn't like cool stuff on the Sega CD, but it's also like, you know, not. It's obviously niche. Given the
I feel like a lot of the really cool stuff was also Japan only.
Yeah, like that was definitely like. Like, it was the thing with that's the issue that the PC Engine, aka TurboGrafx, had in the US was, just the CD add-ons made the PC Engine exist as a thing well up until like the PS1 base existed in Japan, where that just didn't happen here with the TurboGrafx at all. Like, the TurboGrafx was like dead on arrival, and like it wasn't given a chance to really get the longevity of the CD add-on kind of stuff. And yeah. But yeah, that's Lunar. It's a neat, nifty game. I feel like if I had to summarize how I feel about this game overall, I call it peak mid-slop.
Okay.
How long is the peak mid-slop?
I did I think 25 hours. 26.
Okay.
It's under
reasonable old RPG length.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's I think if you're a big fan of RPGs, there's no reason not to play this.
Yeah, this has been on my list for a minute.
It's a perfectly fun, maybe a bit repetitive gameplay wise, but perfectly fun. 7 out of 10. Still a fun time. Nice to go through. Not like games you need to play, but if you're an RPG fan, may as well play it. And it's neat that it's nice that it can exist. You can play it in a legal way now that doesn't involve a lot of the worst excesses of the original PS1 localization.
Yeah, are you gonna play the sequel at some point? At
some point, not now. Yeah. Partly because I've had my fill, and it's not like this is the kind of game where you're necessarily itching at the bit to get to the next one. And partly, I wanted to clear away this game while the current retrograde music season had some breathing room, so I can get to work preparing for the next season follow-up that's already been announced, which is why I'm here to tell you that I've also finished another RPG. I've finished Phantasy Star 1, the Master System game.
I would just like to ask a question. How long do we think we're going to go on Ultraman? Because we are at over 1 hour and 10.
I don't think I have much to say about Phantasy Star 1.
Okay, we can go for it.
So yeah, I play Phantasy Star 1 because the next season of Retro Amnesia is going to be Phantasy Star 4, which means I'm a lunatic who's well, I'm going to clearly have to play 1 to 3 first. So
yeah,
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Phantasy Star 1 seems so cool.
Yes. Have either of you seen the Yuji Naka's first-person dungeons on the fucking Sega Master System, the 8-bit console?
I've played like an hour of the Sega Ages re-release of this game.
Yeah, I for clarity, I played this on the Sega Ages as well.
Is this the one that's for the Switch?
Yes.
Yeah, they give you a map on the game in its original form is on one part of the screen, and they also give you a map and shit on the other one. It's very convenient.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I was also using a guide. I also think I forget if I was also using the mode where they gave you more money and XP, but I forget. But yeah, it's just this was a game that came out, I think, before it came out either within days of Final Fantasy 1.
I think that's correct.
And
I have a spreadsheet for this. Hold on.
Okay, cool. And
I also have a spreadsheet for this.
Do we independently have spreadsheets of RPGs by release date?
Yes.
Oh, that's so fucking funny.
I've only got ones that I'm I kind of intend to play. Phantasy Star is on.
Okay. Yeah. So for context, Final Fantasy was December 18th, 87, and Phantasy Star was 2 days later. It also released the same day as Dragon Slayer 5, Sorcerian.
Nice. When's Dragon Quest 2?
Dragon Quest 2.
Because I know this came out before 3, but
Dragon Quest 2 is January of 1987. Okay. So
same year.
At the start of that year.
Yeah. So this was Sega, Dragon Quest popping off, so people are making their own, and Sega was Master System is more technically impressive than the Famicom, so we just gotta prove how cool we are with our RPG. Which is why you have this fucking first-person dungeon magic wizardry, because Yuji Naka, piece of shit, but also incredible programming wizard. So that's cool. Really smooth.
The ones that you turn the corners? Yes.
Yes. Also just a lot of animation for the when you get into battles and fight enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the big gimmick that kind of sets apart is what if you had 3 different planets you could go to, and it was set in space rather than being in a fantasy world, a sci-fi setting. And so that's cool. Other than that, it's pretty basic plot. Like, it's about the story of, like, you know, the heroine, there's like the Galactic Empire, or I guess Solar System Empire, and the heroine, her brother dies in front of her, and she's like, I'm gonna kill the evil emperor or whatever. And she, you know, collects a party and goes around the planets, and, you know, eventually you go. I gotta be honest, use a guide. I use a guide. I'm not sure necessarily. It's probably one of those era RPGs where you better talk to everyone to maybe have like an inkling of where to go next. But also you have a manual, and you kind of just ping pong around the planets until you eventually, you know, kill a bad guy, kind of thing. But you know, it's nifty. It's neat. I managed to make it less hard on myself by like grinding a bit in the start by like giving the protagonist good gear, from the jump just to make things easier. And, you know, it's, you know, nothing like mind-blowing plot or gameplay-wise, but, like, of its time, and, like, damn, this is pretty cool, pretty nifty, and, like, the Sega Ages stuff, plus having a walkthrough by my side that I'm watching, because I'm not going to figure this stuff out myself, just made it a smoother experience.
The reason to play, especially to play that particular version, is that it has the soundtracks right.
The dungeon themes, both the first one and also the second one, like, oh, this is the coolest shit ever. Because I'm actually gonna give you
you needed like the special something fucking Sega doing their thing with, you know, we released a special thing for our console.
Yeah.
You know,
Sega's Heroes tactic. I'm sure it won't end well and poorly for them at all. Here's like the second dungeon theme, which is in the cool, amazing. I love this song. It's good. Yeah, it's a cool, nifty game that I enjoyed. I think, you know, it's worth checking out.
I'm picking some Phantasy Star music for the end of this, because I'll tell you what, I'm not picking any Macross songs, because whoever owns that music is really vicious.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to get copyright sniped from space. But yeah, Phantasy Star 1, pretty nifty.
Are you like Blobber Brain now?
Blobber?
Yeah, Blobber. That's what cool people back in the day called dungeon crawlers from a first-person perspective.
I mean, it does reaffirm, like, oh, I want to play more of these. I know. Obviously, I want to play Etri Odyssey and SMT.
You're on the right podcast.
Well, yeah. Damn, if only I knew people who were into first-person RPGs. Yeah.
Yeah, those don't exist.
I think we definitely talked about it in like our Tales of Abyss streams. I've been like, I'd like, you know, Wizardry seems cool, but also, you know, I think primarily like my touch points are like Etri and SMT, and like also the Nipponichi, which what's the one called? Like
is it those Labyrinth of...
yes. Yeah.
Labyrinth of Refrain, Labyrinth of Galeria.
Was that the one with like 15-person parties or whatever? Yes. And you like arrange them into formations? Yeah.
Yes, because it's a Nipponichi game. Because they're like, what if we did the Disgaea version of fucking Etri Odyssey? That's their answer. And I'm like, yeah, you should do that. That sounds cool. Yeah, I'd like to play more of these. It's definitely like a segment of the RPG genre I haven't touched as much. And it's nifty. I guess This is me playing a first-person game for once.
Oh, hey. This is your...
There you go.
Sometimes I still get
confused. Finally. First-person gaming.
Yeah. This is what people mean, right?
Yeah.
It is cool. There's
now you're ready to play Counter-Strike.
Something that is cool, like...
I was going to say Kingsfield.
How the first-person stuff plays out is just like, you know, you walk up to people and you open up a first-person view that shows, like, the town from your first-person view, even though you're navigating from a third-person view, mostly. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. And also, like
pools of radiance type shit, yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, like, in the first-person dungeon, like, the enemies pop up first-person style, which is nifty. There's nifty stuff here. Also, there's jokes. Basically, every treasure chest in a dungeon gives you far less money than you get just by fighting one enemy. I think I was in like one of the last dungeons in the game, and I was just like, you got one money. I'm like, that's pretty funny. Also, there's a lot of like chests that just explode, including the ones that enemies drop.
Oh, that's a classic. Yeah.
Because like in this game, enemies don't drop money. They drop chests with money in them. And sometimes those chests will just explode and fire an arrow at you. I'm like, well, I did get injured.
Yep, that's straight out of wizardry.
I'm like, you know what? This fair play. That's funny.
Do you get to disarm them?
No.
Oh, okay. That's not like in wizardry. You have to play a little guessing game where you have a list of possible traps it could be, and you need to correctly pick one, and thieves can like identify what the right answer is, but you need to have one.
They're just like, do you want to open this chest to get the stuff in it? And you say yes or no, and then sometimes you get hurt by doing so, but you still get the stuff. Also, early on in the game, to progress, you need to give like a governor a cake, and to get the cake, there is a dungeon you have to go through, and you go all the way to the bottom of the dungeon, and this guy who's like, "Yeah, thank you to coming from my cake shop. Sorry, it's out of the way."
That's good. That's a good bit.
It's good. Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a neat game. I recommend it. Definitely play the Sega Ages version, though. I think also if you like have high tolerance for like some of the stuff that old RPGs have, there is like a improved translation on you can get a patch for, but I also don't know to the degree that like it matters much on this kind of hardware where like the stuff is limited anyway. But it's out there. And
wow,
that's the first Phantasy Star, and also my 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got you got 3 more Phantasy Stars ahead of you.
Yeah, well, one of them I can take around time or
True. Wow. It sounds like we can talk about Ultraman.
Yeah.
In which case, I've got some summaries here. I got a summary here for episode 7 of Ultraman Leo. Which is called The Leo Brothers Fight, The End of the Saucer Creature, featuring Hungler.
Me all the time.
I was somewhere in this summary I have written they're calling me the Hungler. Junji is a kid.
I like how it's just the end of the saucer creature. I'm like, well, I guess the one of this
just
episode,
this one.
But that's not like unprecedented or anything.
Yeah. When Junji takes Junji is a kid who I skipped a paragraph entirely. Junji is a kid who gets bullied, and he has a fun older brother called Junpei who cheers him up by generally being a bit goofy. Junpei is a trucker or a delivery guy. He's a professional driver. One night, he and Junji get attacked by a kaiju that sucks up and eats the truck they're in. Junji escaped early, but Junpei is badly injured in the incident and his right arm is fucked up. Nobody believes Junji's story about the kaiju, especially the owner of the land the incident happened on.
It's like there was a cultural integration of tax perspective into society after they disbanded.
Yeah. He's trying to sell, and some buyers have backed out over this kaiju rumor. Toru and Ayumi bring Gen to meet Junji, saying, Gen's different. He'll believe you. He fights the saucer creatures. When Junji takes Gen to visit Junpei says, leave the incident alone. Because he's been fired, for crashing the truck. Nobody believes the story about the kaiju. Gen realizes these brothers cannot trust people because people have failed them. He must restore that trust. He struggles with this trust problem in his investigation, as every question he has for Junji is met with a question of his own. You don't believe me, do you? One day, Gen enlists the Miyami family. Is it Miyami or Miyama?
I think it's Miyama.
Okay, he enlists the Miyama family to make some onigiri for today's investigation, and he makes one last gambit to convince Junji he's just trying to help. He tells him he had an older brother too. The saucer creatures attacked and killed him, and now Gen is driven to fight the saucer creatures. Dan mentioned. Junji finally breaks, eats the onigiri, apologizing for not trusting Gen. Immediately, the saucer creature appears and eats a bunch of cars. This is Hungler. I feel like the Hungler. Gen injures his arms, saving Junji, and then pulls a trick with a giant balloon to chase off Hungler. Hungler just heads to a different part of town and starts destroying shit over there instead. Gen arrives on the scene just in time to see Junpei somehow survive driving a tanker directly at Hungler and exploding. I guess Junpei isn't afflicted with an irrational fear of dying in an explosion.
Major first episode of Ace vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gen turns into Leo and then gets his ass kicked on account of his injured arm. But luckily, Astra arrives and saves the day by flying into the kaiju and blowing it up from the inside, and then presumably on the way out, he said, now this is pod racing. Astra supports the injured Leo, and they leave, and Junpei and Junji have a good laugh about the fact that the brothers are in the same state as them. Meanwhile, Commander Black summons Black Star Unit 8, and he's like, "This time you die, Leo. Please, pretty please." Next time on Ultraman, Leo versus Black Terrana. The end.
Just to confirm, it's the Miyama family.
Miyama family. Okay. I've been calling them the Miyami this whole time. The Miyama family. So yeah, we got Kid of the Week, along with Guy of the Week, with a little story about them being failed by people and restoring their trust. How do you feel?
I think I like this episode. I think that this is sealed for me. I just don't think I like Astra, but I just think he's kind of boring.
He is Zoffy's best disciple.
He's Zoffy's best disciple. Okay.
Yeah, because he's like, Astra's here, and he leaves.
Oh, I see. True.
But like when Zoffy does it, it's like flirting. When he does it, it's harassment.
Zoffy Hiraga versus here's Astra.
I do at least like the parallel they do with like the brothers at the end, where he's like, they're just like us. I like the older brother a lot. I think he's
great. I love him.
He's fun. The truck scene is pretty solid.
They pull they psych us out right at the beginning when Junji's getting bullied by the other kids and for not being able to do like a pull-up or something, and the older brother turns up and says, "Junji, what do you mean you can't do a pull-up? Look, I'll show you." And then he fails catastrophically, and just they're laughing at each other the whole time. Yeah. It's great. I love this guy.
The scenes with Hungler remind me of Crazy Gone, so that's fun.
Hungler is the kind of kaiju we've been missing a little since the Source Creatures arrive, which is just seeing a kaiju and going, "Same, bro."
The scene where he's sucking up all the cars and shit is a good one.
Yeah, it's good.
It's like sits on the highway or whatever, and just kind of like tips it, and they all just kind of roll down into his mouth, and it's good. Big fan of this kaiju. We get a Dan mention. I hadn't quite. At first, I had an older brother, and I was like, "No, you didn't. You had a younger brother. What are you talking about?" I forgot that he got enlisted into the Ultra Brothers right at the end.
Yeah.
So him, talking about Dan as his older brother caught me off guard a little. I was like, "Oh, Ken."
Yeah. Once my older brother tried to run me over.
He tried to hit me with a car. He said, "Ken, dodge this." Someone tries to hit him with a car again this week. It's good. What else? This episode is not like necessarily loaded on stuff.
Yeah.
Nah.
But it's
I'm like
good.
warm. I'm warm on it, but like
yeah.
Again, I'm rapidly feeling like I'm ready for this show to end, and I'm also like I've played these games before.
One more week.
Yeah.
Who made this episode?
This one was directed by Shohei Tojo, who I did look, and he is also responsible for the other Astra episodes, and then written by Shigemitsu Taguchi.
Shohei Tojo was like, "This is my guy. This is my OC.
This is dude.
That's his. Oh my god! It's his OC. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Everyone else is like, "Wait, we can't put Astra in the show. We gotta cut this guy out. Surely." He's like, "No, he's very important to Leo's character." Mel,
which is why he only showed up halfway through the show. Special effects director is Junoki, Hangler is Tetsuo Osawa.
Okay, good. What else do we have to say about this episode?
Fuck the guy who's like doing line development.
Generally fuck landowners. That's the vibe you're getting off this podcast.
I love how insistent he is. He's like, no, there's not a monster on my property.
But they come from the sky and attack the earth. It's like, no, not here. This guy could be British. It's classic. Things happen to other people, they don't happen to me.
Black Panther voice, we don't do that here.
Yeah. Fuck this guy. I liked the scene of Junpei getting real. It's kind of being like him talking about like getting fired and talking about how he's always strived to be a good person and like the world has not rewarded him. Gen being like, this is not a story about me saving people from the kaiju, although I will do that. This is a story about me saving the souls of these two brothers.
Hokuto voice, this is the story of me saving the souls of these children whose friend I executed in front of them.
Yes. I'm going to save their souls by executing their friend and then telling them, listen, don't do that. You see what I just did? That should be the exception rather than the rule, kids. Yeah. Do we have anything more to say about this episode?
No.
Nah.
Sounds like no. This one's very perfect. Let us talk about episode 8 of Ultraman Leo. The girl who collects the stardust of demons, featuring the saucer creature Black Terrina. Black Terrina is scattering little pink pearlescent shells. They look like oversized sakura shells, which are like pink butterfly shells. These shells, they're lethal. They attach themselves to people's eyeballs and go to town. People like clutching at these things, screaming, blood pouring from their eyeballs. Yeah. A young girl called Mariko finds a woman basically dead in an alley with one of these shells and is like, lucky. She's a collector, you see. She's hoarding them, stashing them in a box at her hideout at a construction site, and she refuses to share them with Ayumi when she asks. But soon, it's Mariko that needs help. Her mother needs an operation, and I guess Mariko calls the Miyama family because the mother is a nurse? Anyway, at the hospital, Gen reassures Mariko that everything will be alright. And then everything is alright. The surgery was a success, and Mariko's mother is recovering in hospital. Mariko decides to reward all the people that helped with a shell, and she starts passing them out to Ayumi and her mother, the doctor who operated, and even Gen, I think, maybe? The narrator then steps in to tell us that this is just one small part of the crisis, as more people than just Mariko have been picking up the shells. Very soon, Gen is living in a fucking nightmare where random Japanese citizens keep attacking him. It starts with the doctor who operated on Mariko's mother attempting to knife him in the street in a really cool scene, and then suddenly recovering from this urge to kill, and Gen being like...
With passerbys in umbrellas looking really cool as it rains.
Recovering from this urge to kill and being like, what the hell am I doing? The attacks culminate in a woman attacking Gen in an elevator until he pulls the shell off her face, at which point she stops and then seems to believe Gen might be attacking her instead. Then suddenly the shell attaches itself to Gen's eye. He manages to pull it off, but not before like a crotch first shot of Gen writhing around on the floor in agony. Thanks, guys. Gen tracks down Mariko and tries to get her to give up the shells. They're dangerous. Black Terrina appears, and Gen needs to go deal with that, so he leaves Mariko with a warning about the shells. Ayumi gets possessed by a shell, and it seems like Mariko might be about to try a shell on too. Meanwhile, Gen turns into Leo and defeats Black Terrina. It's a hard fight, and when he finally kills Terrina, he collapses from exhaustion. With Black Terrina gone, all the possessed return to their senses. Later, Gen presents Ayumi and Mariko with real Sakura shells. He even has some for Mariko's mother, who is safely recovering in hospital. Meanwhile, Commander Black prophesies the death of Ultraman Leo and the Japanese archipelago, which is big talk for a guy who takes an L every week.
Commander Black is like, hey, remember in episode 1, Dan said how Japan was going to sink? Well, I'm going to do that now.
Yeah. Next week on Ultraman, Leo versus Satan Moore or Satan Moi. One of the two.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where like there's a lot of not consistent localization depending on where you look, including both the official subs and also maybe the booklet.
Okay, what does the booklet say?
Satan Moore, all one word.
Okay, yeah, I've seen Satan Mora, and I've also seen Satan Moi.
So like the French word.
Yeah, it's the French word, but also followed by an S. But you know.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's dumb. We just gotta pick one, basically. But that's next episode.
I'm gonna go with Satan Moore, but we'll get to that next episode. This episode is pretty cool.
I liked it. Definitely the highlight of this week.
The atmosphere in this episode is very good. I liked the like we said, there's that scene where the Doctor tries to knife Gen in the street,
on the bridge,
and like these 4 women turn up with umbrellas and they sort of cover up the fight with their umbrellas, and then they walk away as Gen takes like the shell off the Doctor and like he recovers and is like, why are you trying to kill me, Gen? And Gen's like, what do you mean, why am I trying to kill you? You tried to stab me.
The dude's like, oh, really?
Yeah, to be honest, he takes that really well. He's like, what? That's crazy.
And then...
Okay, I believe you.
I also like that, and I also like, the woman in the hospital going from, oh shit, this weird man's trying to attack me, to, oh god, this man's being attacked by an alien creature, somebody help.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, she has such a bad 30 seconds.
Yeah. Also, the close-up shots of that elevator fight is pretty cool.
It is. It is.
In between these two things is the thing we hadn't say, where like some woman on the roof is dropping cinder blocks on him from an alleyway.
So a woman tries to drop cinder blocks on him after a car attempts to run him down.
Yes!
They happen within seconds of each other. He's like dodges the car and then looks up and sees a woman at the building dropping things on him. It's so good. I love this. It's like a very brief, like everyone's out for Gen, but it's
there's a hint of Mirror Man.
Yeah, like I think it's...
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Speaking of.
Yeah, well, that next episode, also like...
The next episode.
In reference to next episode, Crossdata just mentioned to me on Discord last night, is like, reminded me that a bunch of people who worked on Mirror Man, who were not necessarily working on concurrent Ultraman shows, are now working on Ultraman Leo. So
okay, that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think if you remember, like, some of the guys who, like, were working on Return of Ultraman, but, like, then they got moved on to Mirror Man for various reasons, eventually came back to Ultraman with Leo, so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the vibe here is very Mirror Man, in terms of, like, Gen's in danger from, like, you know, in Mirror Man we had the guys in the suits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a vibe that we, obviously is a Mirror Man thing, but it's a vibe we don't get in Ultraman, where it's like, there's this episode, we don't get a lot of, like, I think maybe we've got maybe a few cases of this, but you don't get many situations. It's a rare plot for so far where we have, this most disorganized sentence ever, where it's like the crazy situation where there's like the enemy could be anywhere and he's kind of everywhere.
Great sentence. Robert Louis Stevenson would be so proud of you.
I'm sorry I did like.
sorry. Anyway, I remember I read Treasure Island, and I remember it was like the first sentence of To
TLDR, I think it's neat and rare in Ultraman where you have like a I guess maybe not body snatchers isn't the right word, but like just like the enemy could be just anywhere in the population, and like there's multiple agents in the population through brainwashing, obviously, but you know.
It was something we maybe got a little more from like Ultra 7.
Yeah, but it's probably more Ultra 7 coded.
Because Ultra 7 was just so in that like alien invasion stuff, and of course, like, all the time. I mean, this is also alien invasion, but it's different. Yeah. It's different.
I mean, we've said like Mirror Man's a bit Ultra 7 coded, at least in the when it leans into the Invader stuff and doesn't just try to be a diet Ultraman show. I think how it works is like, I think like people went on split, like some people went on from Return to do Ace, but some people went to do Mirror Man, and then I assume the people who did Mirror Man went on to do Jumbo or Ace before coming to Leo, so that's probably how the timeline works out.
That's cool.
I think.
I like this saucer creature. It's kind of gross.
It's a weird shell crustacean
it like opens up sometimes and reveals the creature inside, and I'm like, oh, it's like a some kind of shellfish thing. But yeah, I quite like it.
I think it kind of got overshadowed by me by the actual shells themselves.
Yeah, the shells are just... It's kind of... First of all, it's a little funny when the shells leap up onto people's faces. Yeah. It's kind of amusing. But then what happens is people start screaming their lungs out and like blood pouring from their eyes. And
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. Definitely got like those horror vibes we like sometimes have but don't lean into as much.
Yeah, it's good. This little girl seeing this dead woman in the street and being like, "Ooh, shell."
Now she does notice the dead person afterwards and call people, but she does notice the shell first, which is really funny.
Yeah, it's good.
It is also funny when she's like sees possessed Ayumi and she's like, "Damn, that glowing shell is pretty. I want that." despite getting like, "Please do not open."
What? I think maybe I would look good possessed. The possession's a good look. They've got like this kind of they've painted their faces like with a little bit of silver glow to them. I don't want to know what's in that paint. But it's
18 carcinogens.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny when Gen wrestles with her with the case with all the shells inside, and then the monster becomes a problem. So he's like, "Okay, you hold on to that. Don't open it." I'm like, I would. That's a child. You can rip that right out of her hands and toss that all over the building. What are you doing?
Gen's too woke. We've been over this.
The protagonist wouldn't make the child cry like that.
Oh, sometimes you gotta make the child cry.
Sometimes
I'm sorry.
Sometimes
I've just mixed up. I said Gen's too woke. We've been over this. It's not Gen. We were talking. The guy who we were talking about being too woke was Sugimoto from Golden Kamuy. Never mind.
Oh yeah.
I was a little confused.
Yes. Sugimoto has a too woke moment. But Gen's in this moment is just like, I can't tear the toys away from a child. The toys are going to kill her. Take the toys away. Who made this episode?
This was also directed by Shohei Tojo and then written by Bunzo Wakatsuki.
Cool. Mel.
Special effects is Jun Oki. Black Therina is designed by Kengo Kime. Apparently they did want to use real seashells for this episode, but they couldn't actually find them in Tokyo, and so they just made some.
Okay. I mean, I bet the real ones were sturdier for filming. Like, you could claw at them without shattering them. They look fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does the job.
It's kind of, early in the, they're feeling kind of fanciful. It's like, oh, what if we got real shells? That idea lasts 5 minutes. It's like, well, come on.
Yeah.
What else?
I do think it's funny that she like calls up the nurse she knows to personally go do the operation that she already would have been doing.
Yes. Although it seems like maybe she's not on call that night, and she's just like, well, the child has called me, so I guess I have to go.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, the operation was already happening, but
yeah. Yeah.
I like the conversation Ayumi, like, Gen has the Ayumi in the operating room. Not the operating room, but like, sorry.
I didn't. What's the kind of subject of that conversation?
I think he's just like, I don't remember the specific text. It's mostly he's just like being in, good adults trying to comfort a child in a tough situation.
Yeah,
I think it's just a nice moment for him.
This is Dan leaves his life, and Gen reverts to being a warm, loving person again.
Yeah, the toxic masculinity imposed on him, he gets to be free.
Yeah. Dan's gonna come back at the end of the series and being like, "What are you doing, pussy? Stand up. I'm gonna hit you again." Do we have anything more to talk about with this episode?
I appreciate this one giving some variety, I guess I'll say, compared to the rest of them. That was the standout for me.
There we go.
Yeah.
The next episode, episode 9. The monstrous bird saucer attacks the Japanese archipelago, featuring Satan
I
Moore.
actually think it's more like one building, but
It's one building.
He's really.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Building.
You knock down 2 buildings, and that's an attack on a whole country.
true. So real.
Gen meets an ex-Oomfie called Hiroshi.
Who we've never heard of before.
They used to hang out at the sports center with Hiroshi's girlfriend, Atsuko.
Who we also never heard of before.
You also never heard of her before. But Gen and Hiroshi had a big fight because Hiroshi walked out on Atsuko and the sports center to become a photographer. He hasn't seen Hiroshi since, but he's like, what a selfish motherfucker. And now Hiroshi's back in town, riding a motorbike, taking photos, chilling. The old arguments seem so long ago now. Hiroshi's got a photo exhibition in town. Gen says he'll check it out. When Gen finds the place, he also finds another surprise. It's Atsuko. She saw this exhibition in the paper, and she was interested. She got married, and now she has a baby, a very special baby with the ability to become extremely fake in wide shots. They reminisce about the old. It's just a fucking box in a bundle of rags. It's crazy. They reminisce about the old days and reflect on where their new lives are taking them. Anyway, this is Ultraman, and a saucer creature is on its way. Satan Moore is here, and Satan Moore has the power to deploy smaller Satan Moores to attack the people of the Japanese archipelago. Satan Moore also has the power to do 9/11 and attacks the building the exhibition is being held in. Gen is out in the streets trying to look after fleeing civilians while Atsuko is in the building with her baby. Somehow she gets separated from her baby. This will become relevant in a minute. Gen watches a motorcyclist run down a child and admonishes him. But wait, it's Hiroshi. Same old selfish Hiroshi trying to do a hit and run. Now I will continue with the summary. But I want you to imagine that in between the events I describe, Gen is just punching Hiroshi at every opportunity he gets. Gen's like, now I remember why we stopped being Oomfies, and Hiroshi, who again has just injured a child with his bike, is like, what's your fucking problem? At this point, Gen and Hiroshi both notice the building with the exhibition in it is going to collapse, and Gen goes, those people, and Hiroshi goes, my photos. Thank you, Shinoda. When they arrive at the building, Gen notices a crying baby in the street. It's Atsuko's baby. Gen's like, all right, Hiroshi, you look after the baby. And Hiroshi's like, well, no, I'm going to save my photos. Gen admonishes him and asks, if you're a terrible person, can you really take good photos? He leaves the baby.
I'm always asking this.
Yeah. He leaves the baby in Hiroshi's care and transforms into Leo.
As we all know, terrible people don't make good movies.
Yes. Ultraman Leo taking the stance that once someone is cancelled, you don't watch or listen to that shit anymore. He leaves the baby in Hiroshi's care and transforms into Leo to hold up the collapsing building Mirror Man style. Hiroshi's like, oh, he's Leo? Cool. Leo holds up the building until all the civilians escape, and Hiroshi protects the baby from the attacks of the mini Satan Moors at the expense of his own body. Leo tells Hiroshi that he has to have courage, he's doing the right thing, etc. And then when everyone is safe, Leo drops the building and kills Satan Moore. He turns back into Gen and finds Hiroshi, who is dying, but satisfied that he did a good thing. He then dies before Gen can tell him the child is Atsuko's. Atsuko arrives, grabs her baby, and then realizes the body is Hiroshi's. Together, she and Gen mourn the loss of a good man. The end. Hiroshi's transformation from comically evil into dying to save a baby is really funny to me.
It's really funny.
It's crazy. It's like, at last I've done one good thing. My soul is saved and I can die.
Yep.
5 minutes ago, I was maybe going to injure children. And we didn't really care about it. Yeah. It's good. I think I appreciate this episode. Sort of, I don't know. It's kind of like it's. I think it's courageous of a writer to be like, well, if you're a terrible person, you can't make good art, in the sense that it's like, well, okay, you have now set yourself a standard. That's brave. That's brave. So it's strange Ultraman taking this stance. It's not really something I expect from an Ultraman show. I don't think it maybe holds up when you interrogate Ultraman.
I think I like what this episode is going for, but it also feels a little forced and clumsy in ways that...
For me, I feel like I didn't actually care about this episode for the reasons I think Brad is giving away. It doesn't necessarily work for him.
Yeah, she, just kind of trips in that building, then tosses the baby to a random man for reasons that I'm just kind of like... Huh?
I had kind of forgotten that she drops the baby into, the arms of someone else or something, because, in my mind, it's like she drops the baby, and then I guess the baby falls down several flights of stairs and makes it to the ground floor.
And then some guy just drops it
even
off.
more ridiculous. Yeah, so a man grabs the baby, don't worry, I'll take care of your baby, miss, because you're clearly, you might not be able to make it out for, I guess, weak woman reasons. I don't really know. She's just stumbling, I guess. I don't fucking know. And then he...
stuck under a table.
He makes it outside and immediately is like, I'm just gonna put the baby on the curb, and then he runs off.
Yeah,
it is maybe the most artificially constructed stakes in the world.
Yes.
But I would not say that the episode works for me, but I do like it.
I feel like I was kind of bored by it, to be honest, just personally.
I can see that.
I feel like it was hard for me to buy into. Gen had these two friends we didn't know about 3 years ago when Hokuto joined tech, and I guess the sepia.
Yes, we get the sepia flashback.
Yeah, but I'm just it did feel a bit forced.
Yeah,
and just I think it's kind of trite because there's definitely the era for it. It's kind of trite to have Hiroshi die saving the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just kind of like a way to we can just resolve this by killing him. We don't have to worry about it. Though I do think
this actor doesn't have to come back. We don't have to be like, where's Hiroshi now?
Yeah, but I also think I do think it's an interesting wrinkle that he dies without knowing who the baby is.
I think I accept all of this as true. However, I like it when we get Gen meets Hiroshi again. We get all this flashback to how they were fist fighting each other the last time they met.
We both lost a friend that day.
over Hiroshi being an asshole. And then, we cut back to them and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? It's been ages.
Yeah.
And I love that. This is so real to me.
Yeah.
Although it's just in that moment, it's like the fight is a funny anecdote at this point. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, what is it? And then the moment the thing comes up again, Gen is immediately like, man, one. Fuck this asshole. It's just like last time. I fucking hate this guy. And that to me is just I'm like, yes, that's relationships.
Oh, 100%. I do like that stuff. I wish we got just a little bit more about why. We get them training together and stuff, but I do wish this guy was a little bit more three-dimensional and what are the likable qualities that actually made him and Gen friends? Because we get they pushed each other and that only does so much, I feel, for how he acts the rest of this episode.
Yeah, he pushed a child too. Jeez.
I do think I'm on the stance. I kind of like that he dies, just if anything, to give the monster attack some weight.
Yeah.
I think every now and again I do like there being a body count, just to be people actually, there is a cost to these attacks.
Yeah.
But it does make it like you said, it does wrap up very cleanly as a result.
Everything is very like contrived in a way, just like, oh, he died in the last minute only after Gen shows up, but just before she shows up, which is like immediately after he dies.
Yeah.
Another aspect of this episode being almost self-criticism is the fact that the moral issue at the heart of this relationship breaking down is that this guy chose to be an artist instead of a family man. And this just feels like such self-flagellation in a way that is crazy to me. To be like, just, but also this kind of weird self-destructive optimism of maybe one day I'll be able to save a baby and die.
Yeah. This is one of those things where I feel like I need to separate what they believe versus what I believe, because I am extremely not a fan of the one good thing redeems a lifetime of being a prick thing. But like I get where they're coming from, and also too, they do have the extreme example of saving coughing baby. So you know.
I guess that's another reason I dislike when they just die. Is like, I don't think I think it's a really uninteresting form of redemption.
You don't think his soul is actually... You don't actually believe that his soul has been saved in that moment? Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Who made like this episode?
Let's see. I put the book down.
That's the sound of a man who put the book down. I heard it.
Yeah. This was directed by Masataka Yamamoto and written by Bunzo Wakatsuki.
All right, Mel.
Special arts director is Yoshiyuki Yoshimura. Satan Moi More whatever Kengo Kime. Notable
Satan Moi.
Yeah. Notable observation is that this is the only sauce creature so far that's not based on like a sea creature, but instead based on a bird. And two, also specifically a Concorde airplane.
Oh, that's cool.
Also, here's
yeah, I see it. I see the moment you said it. I saw it.
Concept art. Also, some fun notes.
This concept art. It looks even more Concorde in this concept art. That's cool.
Also, fun notes. He says the Kaiju's going to attack March 7th, which is when this episode aired.
Okay.
And also, the Ultra Wiki notes that in episode 1, Gen had only been on Earth for 1 month.
Huh. Okay.
For this whole series?
Episode 1 of Leo.
So when did he meet Hiroshi?
Yes.
When did that happen?
Huh.
Maybe this series is spread over several years. Maybe the 3 years where Gen met Hiroshi is the 3 years between Hokuto joining TAC or whatever and like the rest of the series.
Can I be honest? I kind of forgot that he wasn't just a human. I think the last couple of weeks, just because it hasn't really come up. It hasn't
really come up that he's an alien now.
Earth is his new home.
It's like Dan falls out of the show, and suddenly there's a lot less emphasis on the fact that Gen is an alien, which was one of the important pillars of the show. Was these two guys are the aliens looking after Earth. So yeah, unclear when he could have possibly met these two people.
Maybe he went on an extended vacation.
Oh, yeah. He went back to the sports center despite the death of everyone else.
And it's like, everything I see reminds me of her.
Everything I see reminds me of her. Who? I can't remember her name.
I think it was Ruko.
Yeah, so yeah. Something like that. There's an M, there's a Ko, Is there anything else to talk about with this episode?
A lot of planes shooting at the plane. A lot of planes and missiles.
Yeah, I mean, we got the army again.
Yeah.
The army hanging out shooting things because Mac isn't here. It increasingly feels like writers on the episodes are kind of testing the waters on how much they can mention from before this pivot. Because like you had like last week Toru talking, Toru's dad coming up, and then this week we got like, well, we're gonna can we talk about Dan? Can we talk about Dan? We can talk about Dan. And then we got like the sports center coming up in this episode. I don't know. It feels like everyone working on the show as unclear on what Leo is supposed to be as we are.
Yeah, I do like what you said, like, because it's easy to, like, we don't know. We can only know, like, the decision made, but we don't necessarily know about not always the opinions of those. It's not like, we have Ryu Minatsu's opinions, but, like, you could take the good point that, like, there are likely people in the writing room who did not like or care for this direction, or had frustrations, or, like, for whatever reason couldn't put all the things they wanted into, but tried to find other ways to get across the things they want to.
Yeah, we've got episodes that clearly are supposed to have Kaoru in them, and it's like, well, I guess we use Ayumi.
Yeah. Also, I did one thing, because I wasn't here last week. One thing I like that you said one thing that was interesting I like that you said last week is just like that you, because there was the part of the discussion where you're like, we don't know how we feel about this show.
Impossible to know.
Impossible to know, which is like unprecedented for our podcast so far.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, you said, like, you won't ever be able to think of Leo without thinking of production.
I can't really take it as just a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though also for me, I'm of the opinion where I kind of, I like thinking of, like, the story or production besides behind a thing as part of the story of the thing. Transcending the text. Like, you take the history about it as part of the package with the text. And it's like, one thing is easier to do than the other because the text is right there. But like, for instance, like the thing that kind of like made me start thinking this way, it was like, it was like my observation, like, it feels like is impossible to talk about the show Kamen Rider Hibiki without talking about all the things that happen behind the scenes of Kamen Rider Hibiki.
Yes.
And so it can, I think it's like, the stuff happening in the background is as much part of the story as, like, the text of the story itself. And I think that's just like, and I think that's why I also like doing the production stuff for this pod. It's just like, I think it, like, adds texture.
Ultraman Leo as the tragedy of Tsuburaya Productions is interesting to explore.
A different kind of tragedy from Ace as well.
I think I land the opposite way on that, where I'm just like, more and more feeling each week like, oh, these guys are fucking cowards. Like, I am increasingly getting fed up with how they handle these hurdles. And I'm like, I think I have started to land more negative just as the show goes on, where I'm just like, you can't just keep making the same fucking show forever. It's like, and you're getting diminishing returns, and also too, like, I think every time they're again, like, there's the facing adversity, and then going back to, like, we talked about the platonic ideal that fate bends to for these episodes too, but just like, I'm starting to understand why maybe Ultra and, like, the kaiju stuff was going away, just because, like, there's only so many of these they got in them, and, like, you can already tell, like, they don't have it, and I don't necessarily think that the willpower is there on anyone making this show to try to weave it into something that has longer legs. They're just like, let's squeeze this stone for as much blood as we can get, and then say fuck it when we run out, I guess.
Yeah, I think the thing I struggle with, like, that makes it frustrating is, like, we don't know which things are, like, how the writers themselves feel as, like, a quote-unquote consensus versus mandates from above, like the producers kind of thing.
That's kind of. Oh no, I'll let you finish. Sorry.
And just, like, how much are the actual creative forces actually wanting to do a creative thing and are kind of like, we have to do this thing because like the suits tell us we have to do this thing, because that was the thing, like it was the suits that fired the Minimi, remember, like it wasn't like the writers. And so I'm curious how much the retools are like the people from above being like, we have to do it this way, and like the writers have to just like, because they are all at the end of the day doing a job, they have to like do what they're told. And I wish we got a bit more of that perspective, a bit more. Even if it is like the fact that they are writing they're the ones actually ultimately writing the formulaic thing at the end of the day. I don't know. It's confusing because it's, you know, there's a part of me that does want to give the writers the benefit of the doubt, even though I'm also like watching the thing they're writing and being like, well, you know.
This is kind of my the reason that I tend to, you know, I do find, you know, I do find the production of these shows interesting. I do, you know, I consider the production, you know, part of what you're, you know, in the way, like, you know, when you buy a video game, you're kind of buying the. When this was coming up over the last few years, in terms of like the idea of, you know, buying a video game, you're kind of buying like the production of it, in a way. This worded so badly, but like the reason I tend to I like it when I kind of can like look at a show as like the show itself, because I'm like, well, every story I hear about the background details could be bullshit, could be completely true, is always has like some kind of agenda. There's always some kind of narrative going on, and I'm like, it's not that I can't believe anything ever, and more that like I can watch the show and like form an opinion on the show without like the input from the people writing it. I'm, you know, whatever they say the show is about, I'm like, hey, you know.
Yeah, like kind of had that with the ending of Ace, right?
Yes.
Except when they agree with me. Except when they come back years later and say, yeah, this is exactly what I was writing about, and I fucking basketball dunk and go, hell yeah, I was fucking right. At that point, all my cynicism vanishes, and I point to that and go, well, clearly I was just correct, because I'm a hypocrite. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just like this is a weird situation. In a way, I kind of like, at least it's a bit more exciting having like this be the one case where like we still don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, in a way, I almost like this part of me is like, well, I'd rather like go into the final episode with a possibility I'll enjoy it, rather than being like, well, I'm obviously gonna hate it. But also, I think it's like very reasonable to just be like disillusioned with the show.
I'm gonna be honest. I think I prefer my don't care for Leo at this point.
That's fine. I think it's hard to be attached to anything. Like at the end of the day, I'll probably like be like, I'll be like, well, it's kind of like the mid for me, just because like everything that happened, it's hard to like appreciate because of the pickups and shaking ups and everything like that. And you know, maybe the show that lives on our head will be different, but you know, that's like future us to figure out.
I think my issue is that everything I really latched onto and liked about the show is in the first 15 episodes.
Yeah.
And from there, I feel like it's just kind of been degrading into being another Ultraman show in a way that I think even when they have big differences, like Mac being going away, I'm like not super invested or thrilled in what they're actually doing with it.
We're Ace fans for Leo.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think I tempted fate by saying that Leo fans don't talk about the way they talk about Ace fans talk about Ace, and I think I jinxed it by making us those.
I mean, you know, that just happens. Sometimes a show's a reputation is like, you know, not quite what you actually encounter. And you know, sometimes, you know, and that's kind of. That's, you know, it's subjective and stuff, so you know that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, it sounds like we might be done talking. At the risk of burning all our discussion for the finale.
True. Yeah, we still got 3 more left.
We still got 3 more left.
I'll probably watch it in the next 2 days.
I mean...
Because I gotta do the thing. I gotta
get it done early, and then I can write summaries at work. I
gotta finish this order in time for when this episode is actually out, so people can actually use it.
Well, in which case, Mel, do you have some color timers for us?
Yes, I had to do them while we were talking earlier because I forgot.
Lol.
Episode 46, 3 minutes, 3 seconds. Astra, 1 minute, 55 seconds. Episode 47, 4 minutes, 19 seconds. Episode 48, 5 minutes, 34 seconds.
All right. Do we have any emails?
Let me check.
Did Apple tell us to use Canva again?
No, actually, we don't have any emails. Not this week.
Okay, no emails this week.
But we better get some next week.
Yeah, send them in.
Let us know your thoughts on Leo. Spoiler filled this time. Yeah. You can do that now.
Like 3 days. We record on Sundays.
The gloves are off.
Yeah.
Send those emails. You can find us online at ultra_QUEUE on Twitter, and on Blue Sky at ultraQUEUE. No underscores on Blue Sky. I am also on Blue Sky at Red November. That is my plugs. Mel, your plugs.
Hi, you can follow me at DeCrowns on Twitter and Blue Sky. You can email the pod. Please do so next week for next week's episode, the finale, with all your Kaiju rankings and thoughts. Sort of in the description. At ultraqpod@gmail.com. Also, we have the Coffee UltraQ Fund. There may be traction on some things in the near future. We will see. Mm-hmm. Things for you to think about as spreadsheet master / tyrant. But anyway, Brad.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. Be Invoked. That's BEINVOKED. All one word on Blue Sky, and then also I have a YouTube channel.
Sick. All right, that is the podcast this week. Join us next week for the finale of Ultraman Leo. That is episodes 10 to 12. Yeah.
Man, it's gonna be so nice when you have like single core shows.
Oh yeah, when it's just like fucking over, like almost as soon as it's begun.
Yeah, we got a couple of those coming.
Hang on, Mel, don't wish for that too quickly. You like to do production notes.
Let me tell you, I had to do production notes for the 2 standalone episodes in advance.
I see.
Because I also got my stupid, ridiculous, Golden Kamuy hot pots.
Yeah.
I do the production note for 80, and then after 80, we got fucking
a whole bunch of shit.
Have fun. Yeah,
have fun.
I'm gonna die for a bit. It's probably fine.
Here's the thing. You can relax a little on them sometimes. You don't have to. You don't have to go all out.
The thing is, I kind of just do it by accident.
I see. I just
kind of get like hooked on it. So like, oh hey, I got to put this yourself, you know. I did not actually think my Shinsen Gumi one would be as long as it actually turned out. I did not.
The Shinsen Gumi one was good because I at some point you said something about you described Hijikata's torture methods, and I responded very normally. I was just you started talking about like this man being evil in real life, and then you described like his torture methods as like tying someone up by their feet.
Yes.
And then like dripping hot candle wax on them, and I was like,
well, don't forget the spikes in his foot first.
Oh, the spikes through the foot, and I was like, this is a sex thing.
I guess that's why Taboo works as
Taboo is a good movie. I keep thinking about Taboo. It's really good. It's a quietly good movie.
Hey, Hijikata, it's Pride Month. What do you want to do? Gay Shinsengumi?
Gay Shinsengumi. Absolutely. All right, that is us. Goodbye. We will see you next week.
See everyone.
Later.